Did Jesus rise from death on a Sunday? Introduction. The foundation of faith. It is the most important weekend in human history. It is the bedrock of the Christian faith, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And for nearly 2,000 years, the timeline has seemed straightforward. Jesus died on a Friday and rose again on a Sunday morning. We even call the day of his execution Good Friday. But what if this traditional timeline doesn't perfectly align with the only source we have for these events, the Gospels themselves? A careful reading reveals a startling claim by Jesus that seems to challenge our modern calendar. He said he would be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So, the question we are exploring today is not if the resurrection happened, but when. Did Jesus' resurrection really take place on a Sunday morning, and if so, how does that fit his own prophecy? The prophetic clock. 3 days and 3 nights. To understand the problem, we must start with Jesus' own words. He gave one specific, undeniable sign to prove he was the Messiah. Quote, "Then some of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, 'Teacher, we want to see a sign from you.' But he answered and said to them, 'An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.'" Matthew 12 verses 38 to 40. This is the most specific time statement Jesus made about his death and resurrection, 3 days and 3 nights. This phrase, in a first-century Jewish context, was an idiomatic way of expressing a full, 72-hour period. It's the same phrasing used in the story of Jonah. Now, let's lay the traditional timeline alongside this prophecy. Friday. Sunset to sunset, 1 night, 1 day. Day, Jesus crucified and buried before sundown. Night, Friday night, night 1. Day, Saturday, day 1. Night, Saturday night, night 2. Day, Sunday morning, he is risen, day 2. By a modern, literal count, from late Friday afternoon to early Sunday morning gives us parts of 3 different days, but only 2 nights and 2 days. This falls short of Jesus' own prediction of 3 days and 3 nights. The core problem. Friday to Sunday does not contain 3 nights. To solve this, we need to rebuild the timeline using only the biblical text, understanding the Jewish context of feast days and the reckoning of time. That Jesus meant 3 days and 3 nights of 12 hours each is clear from his own declaration in John 11 verse 9. Jesus asks, "Are there not 12 hours in the day?" First, we know Jesus was crucified on the day of preparation. Quote, "Now it was the preparation day of the Passover," John 19 verse 14. Now when evening had come, because it was the preparation day, that the day before the Sabbath, Mark 15 verse 42. The preparation day is Friday, the day before the weekly Sabbath. But here's the crucial detail. The Bible speaks of 2 types of Sabbaths, the weekly Sabbath, Saturday, and high day, Sabbaths that could fall on any day of the week, associated with the feasts. The Passover was followed immediately by the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and the first day of that feast was a high day, Sabbath, a special day of rest regardless of what day of the week it fell on. John 19. Therefore, because it was the preparation day, that the bodies should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken, John 19 verse 31. This is the key. The Sabbath that was coming was not the regular weekly Saturday Sabbath, but a high day. This means the crucifixion did not necessarily happen on a Friday. It happened on a preparation day for a special Sabbath. Now, let's look at the resurrection. All Gospels agree the women discovered the tomb empty on the first day of the week, Sunday. Quote, "Now after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week began to dawn, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb." Matthew 28 verse 1. So, the sequence is clear. 1. Jesus is crucified and buried on a preparation day, before a Sabbath. 2. That Sabbath is a high day, which could be a Thursday, for example. 3. The women rest on this Sabbath, then buy spices after it is over. 4. Then, they come to the tomb at dawn on Sunday. But notice what Mark adds. Now when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices, that they might come and anoint him. Very early in the morning, on the first day of the week, they came to the tomb, Mark 16 verses 1-2. The women bought spices after the Sabbath was past. But if there was only one Sabbath, the Saturday. This makes no sense, as they would have been buying spices on a Saturday evening, which was still the Sabbath. This implies there were two Sabbaths in that week, the high day, Sabbath, after which they bought spices, and the regular weekly Sabbath, on which they rested again. Wednesday. Day, Jesus crucified and buried before sundown, preparation for the high day Sabbath. Night, Wednesday night, night 1. Thursday, high day Sabbath, feast of unleavened bread. Day, Thursday, day 1. Night, Thursday night, night 2. Friday. Day, Friday, day 2. The women buy and prepare spices after the high day Sabbath ends on Thursday evening. Night, Friday night, night 3. Saturday, weekly Sabbath. Day, Saturday, day 3. The women rest according to the commandment. Night, Saturday night. Sunday. Dawn, the tomb is found empty. He has already risen. In this timeline, Jesus is in the tomb for a full 3 days and 3 nights. Wednesday night, Thursday day, Thursday night, Friday day, Friday night, Saturday day. He rises at the end of the third day, Saturday, just before sundown, and the tomb is discovered empty at dawn on Sunday, the first day of the week. This perfectly fulfills the sign of Jonah. Answering the objections, the third day, and after 3 days. This Wednesday crucifixion timeline is compelling, but it immediately raises strong objections. The most common one is that the Gospels repeatedly say Jesus would rise on the third day. How can Wednesday to Sunday be the third day? This is where understanding Jewish idiomatic timekeeping is essential. In first-century Jewish culture, any part of a day was counted as a full day. This is called inclusive reckoning. Let's see how this works with the biblical phrases. Phrases used in the Gospels. After 3 days, Matt 27:63. In 3 days, John 2 verse 19. On the third day, Matt 16:21. Day 1, Wednesday, burial, on the first day. Day 2, Thursday, on the second day. Day 3, Friday. On the third day, he rises at the very end of this day, after sundown. Discovery, Sunday morning, the tomb is found empty. See how it works? From the Jewish perspective, Wednesday is day 1, Thursday is day 2, and Friday is day 3. This is why the Pharisees, understanding this, went to Pilate on the day after the crucifixion, which would be Thursday in our timeline, and said, "Sir, we remember, that while he was still alive, how that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore command that the tomb be made secure until the third day." Matthew 27 verses 63-64. Notice they use, "after 3 days" and "until the third day" interchangeably. They meant the same thing. So, a Wednesday crucifixion allows for a literal 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb while also perfectly satisfying the "on the third day" prophecies when understood through a Jewish lens. So, what about Sunday? Implications and significance. The biblical evidence is clear: the tomb was discovered empty on Sunday morning. This is the undeniable testimony of all 4 Gospels. Sunday is the first day of the week, the day God began the new creation through the resurrection. It is the day Jesus appeared to his disciples, and later, the early church began meeting on this day to commemorate the resurrection. The tradition of Easter Sunday celebrates the discovery of the resurrection, which is biblically sound. The potential inaccuracy lies in the Good Friday tradition, which seems to be a later development that compressed the timeline. Does this change the core of the Christian faith? Absolutely not. The historicity of the death, burial, and empty tomb remains untouched. The victory over sin and death is just as glorious. However, it does restore the full weight of Jesus' one and only sign. He wasn't giving a rough estimate, he was fulfilling a precise prophecy. Understanding this timeline strengthens the historical reliability of the Gospels, showing an intricate internal consistency that is often overlooked. It demonstrates that every detail, every phrase in Scripture is there for a reason. Conclusion: a reason for hope. The question of when ultimately points us back to the certainty of what. What happened that weekend forever changed the world. By examining the timeline so closely, we are not nitpicking, we are honoring the historical, factual nature of our faith. The resurrection was not a vague spiritual idea. It was a real, historical event that occurred in real time. And the evidence suggests it happened precisely as Jesus said it would, after 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. He gave his word, and he kept it, down to the very last second. And if he was that faithful and precise in fulfilling the sign of Jonah, we can have absolute confidence that he will be faithful to every other promise he has ever made. Thank you for joining this investigative journey into the heart of the gospel story. We encourage you to be like the Bereans, who searched the Scriptures daily to see if these things were so. Read the Gospels for yourself, follow the timeline, and see what you discover. If this video gave you a new perspective, please like and subscribe. Share your thoughts and questions respectfully in the comments below. May the reality of the resurrection fill you with hope and assurance today.